Hello, it's Debbie Gilbert from the Business Awards show, and I'm also the founder of the Best Business Women Awards. And today I am joined by Janan Leo, who is the founder of Cocorose, which is a gorgeous footwear brand for women, very, very stylish. And we are going to be talking to her all about this amazing shoe design business that she's got and about her business journey, about what role awards have played in that business journey and some of the challenges that she has come up against, which I think a lot of retailers will also have suffered with over recent years. So welcome, Janan.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for having me. Very
Lovely,
excited.
lovely to see you. It's always great to talk to people who've been in business a long time, 17 years. I mean,
I
that is
know
incredible amount of time to be in business.
it is. When I think about it, 2007 when I started,
And how the
that
world
was
has
it was
changed.
before Instagram.
Yes,
Um,
Facebook.
when I think about social media back
Yeah.
then, it didn't really exist in the way that we, have it today. So, um, yeah, quite a long time ago.
You've seen a lot of change. I mean, that's the thing. 17 years, even then, e-commerce was just in its infancy in those days, 2007. So
Yeah.
what made you set up a shoe brand? Tell us.
Well, my background is actually in food science,
Oh,
in new
it's a bit
product
different.
development. So following my degree in food science, I decided, because I'm quite a creative individual, I decided I didn't want to go down the technical route. I went down the new product development route. And I worked for fantastic companies like Pret a Manger, Virgin. So really innovative companies and a real entrepreneurial spirit behind them as well. And I've always had an entrepreneurial fire within myself. I come from a very entrepreneurial family, and I just felt that it would be this is what one day this is where I would end up. And 2007, if we try and cast our minds back then, our footwear fashion was very different back
Yeah.
then. We were all wearing heels, believe it or not.
No, we were.
And I was always leaving the house first thing in the morning, coming back quite late at night, and going out in these ridiculous heels. And so the idea that I had to invent the foldable shoe very much came from a personal need. So being very selfish about it, this is what I needed in my life to make my life really easy, much more practical than what it was. And it was literally a pair of shoes that you would fold up, put into a little travel case. I actually have one here to show you. This is one of our one of
Yes,
our new
yes.
ones. So a
Amazing.
ballerina, you
Yeah.
literally fold it and it goes into a little travel purse, which I do have. I can
Amazing.
show you later. But the thing about this is that it was all based on comfort and all based on style.
Mm.
So at the time, as I say, like we were all wearing heels, and it just kind of felt, you would kind of feel like, oh, I'm not in my heels, I don't want to feel frumpy. So it was very much about trying to get that design right and get all those elements working together. And comfort was such a massive part of this, in terms of that's what I kept hearing back from everyone when I was doing my prototypes as well. And so I launched the business in 2007. Speaking about Shopify e-commerce, I launched online, believe it or
Mm.
not. And the very first day that I started the website, I had 2 orders that
Oh,
came in, and
I bet you were like,
I was so excited.
oh my
It was
God.
like, wow, this is it. I've done it. But on a much more serious note, in terms of the movement of
Mm.
footwear fashion as well,
Mm.
there was a realization over a period of time that what I had created was much more about the bigger picture, if you like.
Mm.
So it was this breaking down of stereotypes, the gender
Mm.
stereotypes that women had to wear heels, or that's what women wore.
Mm.
And it's funny now when I think back, 17 years ago, and like we've come all this way. We're all wearing trainers now. We're all
Yeah.
wearing flats.
Even sometimes at a ball or like the awards final, people will wear trainers.
Debbie, I wore trainers at the gala
Exactly.
event. I
People
mean, they
will wear
were
trainers
gold
at a
and they were
wedding. Yeah,
spangly
but
and
they
they
were
were
very nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
But that's so for me, when I think back all those years, it was much more about this bigger picture in terms of this movement of empowering women to wear what they wanted and what made them feel really great as well. And that's where we kind of really started to understand a lot more about what our customers wanted and why they were doing it. And I think that has a lot to do with why we are still here 17 years later. It's really about understanding our customer and her needs as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big task though, footwear. I mean, where did you get the products manufactured?
Well, I mean, when I was searching, I mean, like you do a Google search, there wasn't anything that came up with it all those years ago. So I was looking anywhere in the world. I mean, I didn't physically go to the factories, but I was like in contact with factories all around the world, Brazil, Portugal, Italy, China, everywhere. I settled on a fantastic factory located in southern China. They only did the shoes for me. I didn't give them the idea that the shoe would actually fold because I was so worried that it was so easy to copy. I did apply for patents and all of that, but it's just a money pit at the end of the day as well. So what I ended up doing was I made the little travel pouch here in London. I worked with a great little studio in East London, and they made the pouches. And so I had the shoes that came in and I had the pouches that came in. And over the weekends, I would literally sit and pack everything. And then I'd take it all to the markets in East London, which is where I kind of really started to get traction going as well. So I did the markets on Brick Lane. So that was literally my weekends and my time off from work. But that, one thing leads to another. And our distributor in Italy, she tells this fantastic story where she was really needing to go to the airport. She was in London and she really needed to rush to the airport to catch her flight. But there was something holding her and saying, no, 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 you've not been to the East End of London yet. You've not been to so-and-so areas. And so there was this pull for her to go there. And when she went, not knowing what she was looking for or anything, she picked up our shoes and she picked up our brand in one of the pop-up shops that was there. And that was it for her. It was like, this is why I ended up missing my flight because I needed to discover this brand. And so that was, I think that was in 2008 or 2009, so quite early on. And with them, we grew. We started doing the international trade shows, MICAM, which is a huge footwear show in Milan. And then with them, we grew. We did some of the other international shows as well. So, I always think like there's always a little link, isn't there? And like one thing always leads on to another. And I believe in that's how my business journey has sort of evolved as well. And speaking about the business evolving, so I started with the foldable shoe. And then over the next number of years, I then introduced the leather foldable shoe, which I designed as a hybrid, which is what I'm showing you here. So a beautiful leather flat, which is like an everyday wear flat, but it has the ability to fold as well. And I think, that whole idea of hybrid is where it's come from, because at the end of the day, what we were starting to do was we were starting to move in fashion and women's footwear, we were starting to move into flats at the time. And so for me, it was really important to be able to encourage women to wear them every day. And to be honest, the comfort levels in this are top notch, like all the cushioning, the pillowing, everything. And it all came back to that, what is the brand's DNA? And that's what it kind of all instilled back to. Then I from doing this, I then went on to design a foldable trainer, a foldable boot, foldable espadrilles, and we've got some amazing pieces of press, which was just like, oh, the brand that brought us the foldable shoe has now brought us the foldable espadrille. And it was so much fun because it was just completely deconstructing footwear. When I first had the idea to do this, to create this concept, I was actually told by industry professionals that it was a no-go and it would never happen and it would never take off. And I think for me, that was kind of like a catalyst as well to sort of say, I'll show you it will, because I know as myself, as being a customer, a potential customer, I know that there are other women out, millions of other women out there who are needing the same concept as what I do. So that was a really big moment for me, even though it was rejection, but it was still, it was still that driver of the business. So following on from all of my lovely foldable footwear inventions, in 2018, Gareth, my other half and business partner as well, Gareth and I sat down, and I was very much about saying, right, that's it. We're going to launch our trainer. Non-foldable, we're going to launch an incredibly comfortable trainer. And we did it. We were so worried, I remember, because it was like, oh, but our brand DNA is all about foldable. How is it going to fit in? But actually, that really showed us that it came back to comfort and the designs. And so for us to launch our trainer, it was kind of like a logical next step in a brand evolution. So this is one of the new ones that we've just launched.
Oh, wow, that looks amazing.
So these are an example of the trainer. So again, just beautifully handmade, everything's handcrafted, all the pillowing and padding. So it's an example of one of our trainers, which now is probably about 50% of the business in terms of like product breakdown.
How much time do you spend on product development then? Are you out there talking to consumers or looking at magazines and films and seeing what's trending, or how do you, seems like an immense task to know what sort of ranges to bring out.
It is immense. And I think with the two children who are 2 and 5, I'm like up to here at the moment. But having children, I think, helps me to focus a bit more as well, because it's like, I've only got this amount of time. I've got to like, I've got to get tasks done. So I spend a lot of time on social media. I spend a lot of time reading trade magazines, because ultimately, I mean, this is a great example now. There's been talk over the last number of years about the ballerina coming back. And it's been trickling back slowly. But now at the trade shows, there's a real push for it. And it was the same pattern that the trainer followed all the way back in like 2010, I think it was. We started to see it, and slowly it was just like, bang, this is what it's all about. And so we're starting to see the same now with the ballerina. So there's a lot of time spent in terms of like products and what is going on in the trade, because we're, that's like at least a year ahead of, in the shops. And so and then yeah, just understanding what's out there in terms of the market, and I think lending that ear to consumers as well, to our customers, understanding what is important to them. And that actually brings me on to the next exciting launch that we've recently done. So I would say probably about 2 years ago, or maybe even 2.5 years ago, we started thinking about, well, you know, we've got some fantastic sustainable initiatives in the business, but we want to create a range of products that is all about that whole sustainable initiative as well. We started looking at, for example, yarn made out of plastic, recycled plastic bottles, for example. But the minimums were so high on that. And we just thought it's not quite, it's very machine made. And we just thought it is a great product, but it's not quite what we're looking for. And so then in January last year, we started working with our factory in Portugal, and we came up with our latest creation, which is a trainer made out of cactus leather. So it's all plant-based, organic cactus leather.
So great for vegans. Yeah.
It's vegan, it's sustainable. The sole is actually made with 30% recycled cork. So, you know, wine stoppers. So
that's amazing.
We add that into the rubber and it becomes really durable. There's an extra sort of bounce. And for us, this was, it took a year to test it, develop it, retest it, you know, do all the research and design behind it. But when we in I think it was the end of January stroke beginning of February, and I came across Innovate UK, and they had a grant open to businesses that were looking to create new concepts and new ideas that would help to mitigate climate change and help with fashion circular industry. And to me, it was just like, well, we've got to do this because this is completely right up our street. So I think we had about a week to apply. We applied, we won.
Oh my gosh.
And basically we spent the whole year designing, developing, testing and retesting. And then in December 2023, so just a couple of months ago, we launched our collection of these trainers. So it's been an absolute whirlwind. But I think from, you know, I look back in terms of like the whole evolution of the business, and it's things just happen because, you know, you're in touch with your customers and you've got your ear to the ground and you're listening. And I think that's what we try to do as much as we can. We're listening to what our customers are wanting and what's important to them. Yeah.
What is your customer? So who buys Cocorose shoes? What sort of people buy them?
Well, predominantly women, because we are a women's brand. But we are definitely not, we're not considered to be like a fast fashion brand.
Fashion that lasts.
Yeah, so we're all about the quality, the handcrafted, the artisan nature of the product. You know, we're not like it's not to say that our customers don't love wearing our trainers, and some of them have so many pairs, and that's fantastic. But they're able to rotate that. It's not like it's a one season. We actually call a lot of them like our core range, like the evergreens, because they're just in, you know, I say in stock. We try and keep them in stock throughout the year, but because we craft in small batches, we do sell out a bit. And so we have holes a lot. And of course, in footwear, you've got sizes as well, which is an utter nightmare. But we do try and restock the best-selling core range. And so that's why we consider it to be like that slow fashion rather than like, you know, you're going out, you're wearing it once and then basically you're chucking it out or getting rid of it. We also introduced our recycle scheme recently, probably a couple years ago now, where our customers are able to send back their pre-loved Cocorose shoes, and then they can exchange them for loyalty points, which we call rosebuds. And we work with a charity that basically will turn them into anything but landfill. So it's a wonderful, again, closing that gap you know, that whole encouraging that circular fashion,
Mm.
because ultimately you're going to wear out shoes.
Yeah.
So what do we do with them? And that's what we're trying to encourage in terms of, we'll send it back to us and we can help to recycle them and do something meaningful with them, rather than just putting them into the bin. So that, yeah, that's been quite a lovely initiative that we've worked with. And of course, we also plant a tree with every order that we get. And I think we're over 5,000 trees at the moment, with Ecology, who we recently started working with. And then, of course, the other thing that we love doing is we work with the Honey Pot Children's Charity, which is a fantastic organization, charity. And this was born out of COVID. I had Ellen, I think she was about 1.5 or something like that at the time that COVID hit and we were in lockdown. And basically Gareth and I were thinking, gosh, you know, like kids, it's not just the pressure that they're in now, but it'll be the later years in terms of coming out of COVID. So, you know, I think having Ellen at the time was very, very poignant to us. And so that's why we started looking for who we could work with as a charity. During COVID, we actually had to pivot the business quite a bit, and we ended up launching a range of face masks. We donated the profits, unlike so many. Oh, well, let's not go down that route. We donated the profits of our face mask to the Honey Pot Children's Charity. And also Ellen and I designed a rainbow trainer together, because if you might remember all the rainbows in the windows, right?
It's a big thing.
It was a big, big thing. And so we had our rainbow trainer, which we launched during lockdown as well, which was fantastic. And we still have in the collection today. And I think to date, we've probably raised about £40,000 for them.
Amazing.
So it's been such a nice journey to work with them. And then, of course, in COVID, the other thing that we did was we launched a range of candles. So with the whole stay at home thing, mental health, stay at home, we wanted to create a range of lovely, beautiful candles that we would make locally. So we make these in Muswell Hill, which is where we are.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this one is actually done for Honey Pot as well. So 10% of these are given to Honey Pot. I should have said £20 from every rainbow trainer sold goes to Honey Pot also.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So yeah, and so we continue with our Honey Pot collection. And I think the whole other side, the greater purpose, is quite an important one for us and for our customers as well, which is kind of how we got onto this topic. But having our customers seek products with purpose.
Yes.
And I think having these little stories and these little, purpose-driven products makes such a big difference. This year we're going to, or we've just started working with a new company dedicated to social inclusion, so particularly for individuals with autism. They're called Lunar Eclipse, and so we're just, this year is going to be about bringing them on board and extending the partnership to them as well. So we're all about trying to do lovely things.
Amazing. And I think this is why the Best Businesswomen Awards judges picked you to win the Gold Best Product Award, because you haven't just got a great shoe brand and beautiful shoes, but you've got so many other things that you're doing outside of your business that makes you really special and stand out. So tell us about what happened then at the awards. How did you feel?
I'm still buzzing, Debbie.
Because not only did you win a gold for best product, but you also got a silver for most inspiring businesswoman.
Oh, I'm so excited still. Can you believe? I'm still brimming from ear to ear. And you know what? It's funny because just before this podcast, I had that same like butterfly feeling again.
Oh, that's
Maybe it's
amazing.
you, Debbie. Um, but it was like, oh, I felt like I was back at the awards again, and
Yes,
it
get to
was
relive
just
that
at that
moment.
moment that it was being presented, and suddenly, I honestly did not expect to win. I
No, I
seriously
could tell when
didn't.
I saw your face and I knew you were just like, oh.
I mean, honestly, there are so many wonderful brands and businesses
Yeah.
out there, and I honestly didn't expect to win. And so when my name was called, I almost didn't like what, as you say, the face said it all. But no, it was so exciting and such a
Mm,
great chance to be involved with so
mm,
many wonderful businesses. And I think the what's great out of it as well is that chance for collaboration
mm,
later on. And so
mm,
meeting other businesses, um, many like-minded businesses. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity that these awards offer. Um, so yeah, definitely enter if you haven't already. Um, I'll be looking to enter, I think, again,
that would be
hopefully.
great.
So yeah, I think awards, I think, are really, really important. And I
Mm,
think for me, we've always tried to enter some awards. We did have a period where when the two little children were born, that those 5 years, or actually, yeah,
mm,
4 or 5 years, that honestly I don't feel like I've done half as much as what I've wanted to do. So awards were definitely put on the back burner for
mm.
that amount of time. But we've had some fantastic awards, finalists, wins, anything from like HSBC Startup Stars, which was like years and years and years ago, Women of the Future Awards, the great British Retail, or
Yeah,
onto the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, I should say. So
they're good.
some
Yeah.
really fantastic awards. And then, of course, most recently, the Small Business Britain's Female Entrepreneur I Also 100. I'm really excited to be
Part of
not
that.
shortlisted, to be a
Hey,
part of
part of
that.
it, being chosen. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
really looking forward to going to the House of Lords.
Yes.
So I am very, very excited, because that's a fantastic group as well, and community of
Mm.
other women to get involved with. So I
And I
think
think
awards are really important to
they
be
do.
recognized.
Yeah. And I think they validate not just how amazing your brand is, but also how great you are as a business person. I think that external validation is great, isn't it? Because it gives your customers confidence, but also when you're working with other suppliers, it's great for that as well.
It is. And you know what? It gives me confidence.
Mm.
So I think so often as entrepreneurs, we always put ourselves last in that sense. You're always thinking about others, like um how how to design for your customer, how to do, and I know for myself, I always like second guess sometimes, thinking, oh, you know is it going to be good enough? Am I good enough for it? And so I think, and I know that it's not just me who feels that way. So many others feel the same way. And so I think these awards are such a big confidence boost
Mm.
to entrepreneurs, because it's like, no, you are really amazing. Just look at what you've achieved. Because so often, I look back and I think, oh, I didn't do that, or I didn't get that done. And it's like, oh, so many things that you haven't kind of like ticked off your list yet. And it's really important, I think, to be able to just stop and then assess
Mm.
and reflect. And then you realize, like, wow, I have achieved a lot. And
Achieved an
it's
incredible
from,
amount.
but it's from these awards as well
Yeah.
that you sort of think, wow, okay, it's not just, yeah, somebody else thinks that. There's that third
Mm.
party, as you say, third party validation. So I think that's really, really important, just from you know, an entrepreneur's own self-confidence boost.
What I think makes you quite unique is that you didn't come from a fashion background. You didn't go to fashion school. You had a completely polar opposite, really, education, and you're working in the food industry. And then you've created this business and kind of, I presume, have learned along the way, learned the tough lessons as you've gone along. And that makes it
Absolutely.
even more incredible
I've
because
learned on the ground.
exactly. And retail has been very hard hit in the UK with Brexit. So
Yep.
how has that affected you?
Well, Brexit has impacted us hugely. But I think if I can just go back to your point about not coming from a fashion
Mm,
industry, sometimes I worry about it, especially when you're at the trade shows and then people are like, oh, so it's almost like, what's your credibility?
mm,
But actually you sort of think, no, actually, this is to my advantage
mm.
because I've come at it from a completely different
Yeah.
perspective. When I think back to the panel that basically told me that it couldn't be done,
You
you
proved
know,
them wrong.
they were all footwear experts, if you
Mm,
like. And so I think for me, it was just like, no, wait a minute. I'm coming at this from a new product development point of view. And whether you're developing a sandwich or whether you're developing, I don't know, a new foldable concept in footwear, the process that I went through
mm,
was a similar, I applied the similar sort of logic to it. And I just went through a
mm,
similar route that I was very, very familiar with. But the whole thing about it for me was about saying, no, wait a minute, we can deconstruct this and we can break it all down and then build it all back up again. And that's how I came up with it, because I didn't come in with any preconceived ideas about how footwear should be made.
mm,
And when I spoke with so many of the factories, it was like, no, you can't do it like that. You can't use that last, or you can't last it like that. And it was like, no, just bear with me. I just want to try it.
mm.
And so often, like our factory, bless him, we've worked with him for like what 16 years now. Um, and it's funny because I always tease him and I always say, but do you remember when you said it couldn't be done? And he's like, yeah, all right, then we'll try it again. So, there is this, and it's important to sort of take that step back
Yeah,
and say, wait a
I
minute,
see.
thinking about it from a different perspective and saying, yeah, actually, we can do it, because it's true, isn't it? Where there's a will, there's a way. You'll find a way to do it.
So what I'm hearing is it's really the way your brain works and the science behind all the stuff you've learned, you've reapplied that in the footwear brand, really.
Very much so,
Yeah.
yeah. From a new product, I just kind of took that new product
Yeah.
development cycle and
I can
applied it.
see that now. Yeah.
And it was good. And I think that. I mean, I just so that I had some sort of knowledge, I did do a year at the London College of Fashion
Oh,
in
okay. So you
footwear
did do that as
design
well. Mm.
when I was working full time. So I did have that as my evening stroke weekend
Wow.
thing that I was doing
Mm.
purely out of interest, and thinking, right, okay, I need to understand the components of footwear.
Mm.
But it was a very, very basic course. And what I mean by that is like, you are going to learn the majority of it in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all of it is. And yeah, so I spent so much time just out in the factories, out at the shows, just trying to absorb as much as I could. And yeah, you kind of become, a footwear person, if you like.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
you are an industry expert at the end of the day. And what I'm loving you talking about is the sustainability thing, because that's a big thing for me. And I think it's really interesting that you've developed these ideas.
yeah.
And I think it's great
And
that
it's
you
so, talking about like challenges,
mm,
um, and how the retail landscape has changed. I think bringing in new collections that are like
mm,
with the whole sustainability side of things, it just shows how business has evolved over the last decade stroke 15
mm,
years or so, and how our priorities as consumers have evolved as well. We've moved as consumers to become much more eco-conscious, which is a fantastic thing. And it just shows how retail just doesn't stand still. You know, you've just constantly got to be thinking ahead and developing. And I think, you know, in terms of all these challenges that we face, I mean, like, so many, so many. I mean, from recessions in the UK to recessions in Europe to recessions in Asia to Brexit and COVID and everything in between. I mean, I feel like the last, well, since we started, I feel like we've been in a recession.
Well, you know, you're just getting constantly battered by a challenge all the time. I mean,
constantly.
It's not the golden years of retail. It is definitely the tough years of retail.
It isn't. I mean, we initially built the brand on wholesale. So wholesale distributors, agents all over the world. And then we rode that wave where it was, you know, you had partners everywhere. And then it was all about seeing the demise of the high street. So experiencing that, not just in the UK, but globally as well. And so that's greatly impacted retail. And then, of course, with Brexit on top, we've had the crash of the sterling. I mean, literally overnight. You know, I don't know whether people remember, whether people were even looking, but I remember so clearly because exchange rates are so important to us in business. But literally, with that night that Brexit happened, the exchange rate completely collapsed. Sterling completely collapsed, and that massively affected us. And then we had the whole thing about like the transport companies, they didn't know what they were doing for a long time. And so we had a lot of business in Europe, and we didn't know how, you know, how we would even get the shoes there for smaller independent boutiques. I mean, it was an absolute mess, chaos. Brexit has been a disaster, I think, for small businesses. You know, for that sustainability of small businesses, I think it's been a real challenge to ride. But anyway, we're still here.
You're still there.
There's something positive out of that.
So let's also talk about the challenges for those people listening who've got young children. So your business obviously was well established when you had the children. What have you done to try and juggle that whole children business routine? How have you found it?
Well, I don't think that there's an easy answer for this at all.
No.
I think having children, you know, I absolutely love having the two of them. They are an absolute joy to be around and all of that. But from a business point of view, it's been really, really challenging. But I mean, I'm very thankful we have a small team, so I've been able to rely a lot and fall back on them and delegate a lot more. I've been able to try and reprioritize myself, what really needs to get done and what my focus is. And I think that's been really important to me, to sort of revisit all of those things that are really key to my role. And one of the key things being the vision part of it as well. So the whole, for example, like the whole sustainability side of things, and the whole vision about wanting to do that. So, you know, that came about in between the two of them. So I think, you know, on a positive note, it takes you out of the business. And I think that's really important, because you're out, you can actually remove yourself from the day-to-day and see things in the bigger picture. I think on the other side, the hours are totally compressed. You know, what used to be a full day isn't a full day anymore. It's half a day. I'm leaving the office at 2:40 in the afternoon for school pickups and to do all of that. And you know, the other side of things is nursery. So the little one is in 3 days a week in nursery. It's another mortgage,
I know,
you
it's
know, in terms
ridiculous,
of
the costs. Yeah.
the childcare costs are astronomical, and yeah, I mean, you basically end up working to pay the nursery
Mm,
bill.
mm,
I
mm.
think it's something that government really, really needs to review, especially for female entrepreneurs. I think it's such an important part of our life, both personally and business wise, you know. And so I think there has to be something. I know that they're bringing in 15 hours in April for 2-year-olds, so they're introducing that. But it couldn't come soon enough, really, could it? I mean, mine is already 2. And so I've been through the pain of that, but there will be others, so it will be beneficial to them. But I think there has to be more that is done. I don't have the answer. If there's a panel discussion, I'd be happy to be sitting on that panel discussion. But I don't have what that answer is. But I think something has to be done to help female entrepreneurs try to juggle life and business, because as I say, it's a big part of both, isn't it? And childcare costs are just huge. I think actually the UK are probably one of the highest in the world for
Yes,
childcare
I
costs.
have read that as well. I mean, I personally think there should be some sort of tax breaks when you have children of some kind. I don't know what those might be, but there should be some tax breaks to help families that are far, far greater than what the family allowance that is paid out to people below a certain income. Because actually, the more childcare support that there is out there, the easier it is to boost the economy in the long run. Just that they don't see the bigger picture.
I know, and this is what's so frustrating though, isn't it? And you kind of try and think, yeah, but if I just had a bit more time, I could, you know, but you know, we've all got
you may have
limited.
been able to grow your business slightly bigger and employ more people, for example. I mean, that's the crux of it, isn't it?
But honestly, Debbie, I feel like the last 5 years, the business has been put on a bit of a hold as well, whilst we have the 2 little
2
ones
children.
and you know, try and prioritize things. And we haven't, for example, like we haven't been able to, okay, there's been COVID as well in between it, but you know, for example, we haven't done the international trade shows because it just isn't feasible to do it with the 2 of them. And I remember the first, well, Ellen had just turned 1 and she went with us to Milan to the trade show when we were doing, and
that's brave.
It was, I mean, I remember it so clearly because one day she was like just pottering around. She had just started learning to walk. And so literally the shoes were coming off the shelves everywhere. I mean, she was a magnet for customers as well. So it was brilliant to bring them onto the stand. But then the next day she was teething really badly. So I spent the entire day in the hotel with her. And so it was just like, oh my gosh. And then I think a week later we had to go to Tokyo, oh no, Osaka, in Japan, because we had a show there. I mean, that she was brilliant in terms of they absolutely loved her there, and she was able to bring on like tons of customers. So that was fantastic. But it's not feasible to do that anymore with a 5-year-old. So take her out of school. But yeah, so I think, yeah, as I say, I don't have the answer, but I would really, I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And yeah, help needs to be done somehow to help female entrepreneurs, you know, with young children.
Navigate this problem. And it's sad for me to sit here and say it because my children are now 29 and 22. And I've had my business for 25 years and not a lot has changed in 25 years. And I'm actually quite sad to say that. That progress has not been made in the way that I thought it would have been. You know, there has been some, but nowhere near enough.
But that just shows, doesn't it, how behind,
we're still disadvantaged. Females are still greatly disadvantaged, which is why we need the Best Businesswomen Awards and we need female business recognition, because the reason for me setting up the awards 10 years ago was because there wasn't really anything rewarding female entrepreneurs on a smaller scale. There was the awards like Verve Clicquot that were rewarding women at, you know, million pound turnover businesses plus. And actually, most women who run a business because they need to juggle it around their families, or that they're, you know, trying to wear a lot of hats and deal with a lot of things. So I do find it a bit sad in a way that we haven't really come very far in that amount of time. So I think,
hopefully someone's listening to this,
well,
Debbie,
I hope so,
and then
because,
you know, some
yeah,
progress can be
can
pushed
be
along.
made. I mean, actually, Michelle Ovens, who obviously is one of the trailblazers out there, and he's part of, you know, driving things forward for small businesses with her Small Business Britain campaign, the F Entrepreneur, and all of the other things she's doing. She is trying to, you know, work with government on all of these things. But I think if we can all, you know, raise these issues with our MPs and try and put it back on the agenda a bit more and push it up the list. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're having similar struggles, we need to get together and push it out there a bit more again, because I think it tends to get put under the carpet a little bit, and we're just expected to manage and cope, and well, we're getting 15 hours now for a 2-year-old, isn't that enough?
But I think that's the thing though, Debbie, as well. We just do it. You know,
we just get on with it.
There isn't a choice. We kind of just get on and do it. So it's like, well, okay, fine, we'll just carry on. And so it becomes that kind of cycle again, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. So it's great that we talked about that today, because I think we often watch other people with their businesses and think, oh my God, it just looks so effortless and so amazing. And actually, every single entrepreneur I've spoken to for this podcast, and that's running into nearly 100 people now, nobody has had it easy. Nobody. Everyone has challenges.
I think this is business, isn't it?
It is.
It's just everyday life. It's a reality. You know, running your own business is really not for the faint-hearted.
No,
it really isn't. It's tough out there. It's incredibly rewarding. Incredibly rewarding, but it's incredibly challenging as well. And there will be sleepless nights, and there will be, you know, things that are totally out of your control, like COVID and Brexit, that just happened,
exactly. That wasn't,
you know,
well, unless somebody voted for it, which obviously I didn't, and I clearly think that you probably didn't either. But I think it was beyond our control. What I think as well is that business is an ever-shifting sand. Like, we are constantly, there's innovation and technology. You look at AI and how that's developing and moving very fast. And everything is, nothing stays the same for very long. And as business owners, we have to constantly evolve and, you know, create and innovate. And it is a constant cycle, and that in itself can be exhausting.
But that again, you know, coming back to the ones that are, you know, still here, still around, that is the reason why we survive in that sense, because you are, you know, you don't need to be told, do you? That is, I went to a small business, a small business startup panel thing, and it was very much like, you know, questions that like, oh, but should I do it like this? Or it was almost like, I can't give you the answer. You just know, as you know, ultimately you have to make your own decisions in the business. I can guide you with certain things, but I can't give you the answer. And I think that's where, you know, an entrepreneur has to be quite strong as well, because it's like, no one's going to tell you which route you need to go down. You need to kind of feel it yourself, and then make that your decision based on everything around you. But it just reminds me so much of that, where it's like, no one can, no, you know, you're almost making those decisions for you. So you have to make your own future, don't you?
Yeah, and I think you have to carve your own path. And this is what I often say to people, is like, the way you work with your business and your shoe designs and etc., you could have somebody else also making shoes that will do things in a slightly different way, carve their own path. You'll both be equally successful, but you'll carve your own way through it. And I think we all have to find our own way based on our gut instincts, our experiences, learn from our mistakes, and you know, enjoy absorbing the knowledge around us from each other as well, because that's the power of women. I think we are very giving in sharing our knowledge and our experiences and how that can benefit other people. But it ultimately, I totally agree with you, it's about making your own decisions and carving your own path. I couldn't agree
And I
more with
think
that.
also this is why, you know, the communities like the Best Businesswomen Awards, the I Also 100 community is so important, because there's a lot of sharing of knowledge. There's a lot of sharing of experiences. It's not, you know, sometimes you think like, oh, it's only me who's going through it, but no, you're like probably 101 others are going through exactly the same. And so, or and have been through it. And so it's almost like if they can share those experiences, you can share it together, then you can reach somewhere a bit sooner as well. So I think that, you know, this is why I think these events like what you've got, and the, let's call it like that family, that community network of support is so important as well. And I think it's, it just helps, doesn't it? As you say, women like to share. So it's good.
So we sort of normally end with what's coming up with you. What's coming up this year for you? What have you got that you want to share that you're up to?
Well, having launched our sustainable Q collection, we
amazing.
are developing our phase 2 of it. So we're on to the next phase of that, and looking to work with different plant-based leathers. At the moment, we're still on cactus leather, but you know, the further on down the line, it'll be a case of looking at different plant-based leathers as well. And I think for us, it's just building on these initiatives that we have at the moment. As I say, like the lunar eclipse, building on that, extending the partnership there, looking at what the product range is. Our leather trainers are amazing, and it's continuing to, these ones here, this range, we call it our Hoxton range.
Oh yeah.
You know, continuing to build on these. And I mentioned it earlier in terms of like our out of stocks, like just trying to bridge that gap a bit more. So from a supply chain perspective, trying to do that. And then the other thing, which is quite big up on the list for this year, is starting to look at funding. So I think it's a big one. And again, from a female entrepreneur, there's quite a lot going on around that in terms of funding for female-led businesses, and just trying to put that into motion a bit more, and understand those next steps so that we can start to go down that route. So yeah, if there are any angel investors out there listening, please get in touch.
Oh wow, how exciting. Yes, there's quite a lot that goes on in, well, you'll know, in central London with the Angel Investors Network. So interesting. Well, we shall watch this space with interest.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's been really great talking to you. We will add the links for Cocorose into the show notes, and you will be able to have a look at this beautiful shoe collection on their website. So thank you, Janan, for joining me today. We wish you every success with the shoe brand, and we can just see it growing strength to strength. So it's amazing.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you.
Take
Lovely
care.
to chat.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.